So last week we had demos from Antoine, I think, showing the fix about the dashboard, maybe SEO module also, with some feedback about the casing of the SEO module. What else? Dean did some stuff. I should have known. What was it, Dean, last week that you showed us?
Do I do something with users again? Oh, yeah, user filters.
Yeah. Dashboard fixes. Updates. Okay. And we talked about speak time. Okay. Today, demos. Where are the demos?
Well, nothing for me this week, I'm afraid.
What? Plasma, you must have done something.
We worked on fixing things with Fluid.
Oh, we fixed
Maybe we could, yeah, Fluid. Maybe we could talk about Fluid.
I will talk about the breaking changes. I will show the breaking, because that's important. People have hit some breaking changes, so I need to explain the breaking changes. What else? What did we do? What's happening? There's topics. We can almost start thinking about harvest once everyone is vaccinated. So, is anyone vaccinated here? Do we have very old people? Bertrand is not that old. Nobody. Good for you.
Come around here yet.
Good for you if you don't, if you're not in the priority list. Actually, that's good for you. If you're vaccinated, that will also be good for you. Okay. So, what else? Status. Let's be there. Orchard 1. I don't remember anything. Let's check. Nothing on Orchard 1. Few comments on the PRs. That's what we did last Thursday. Orchard 4. Dev. It's going fast. I don't have time to keep up with the dev branch. Last week was the 9. Filter in the dev branch. Oh, I should delete this branch. Don't need it anymore. Okay, 9. What happened? This one, Antoine, jQuery 351 folder. We mentioned that last week. 1 second. I need to cough. So 351 folder is now fixed. A new project dialog for the documentation. Okay. Showing how to enable this dialog. Job. Autoset. Yeah, so that's why I wanted Antoine, hoping he could demo the feature. I need a demo of this feature. And I need, and everyone needs a demo of this feature. Did someone copy paste grids and then Visual Studio had to fix it? Or did someone, or what is that grid? Or is it location of this project? Maybe now it's fixed. Okay, maybe that's it. Okay. Yeah, I need a demo of this feature because I want to see all the things we can do with it and how it ended up in terms of configuration. I assume it's the standard configuration, looks good. The goal of this feature being that if you provide the correct settings being either from command line, environment variables, or settings file, then if you provide the correct settings, some correct settings, then when you start Orchard, the tenants that have been defined in the settings will be set up automatically the first time the tenant is requested, which means it will go through the setup without showing the setup screen, because all the information that it needs in the setup screen will be provided as settings. So that's super useful, like password. Okay. In this case, you will provide it as an environment variable, for instance. So I wonder if we could also pass custom like encrypted values, at least from the command line. So some values could come from the setting, and then, okay, let's use this one automatically inherited randomly from the command line. We need to see what we can do with that. But that's the idea. So super, super useful for automating, for instance, new tenants, or for automating tests. In the Cypress test, we do that. Maybe now we don't need to go to the setup page and type something, though that's something we also want to test, so that's good. But yeah, you can automate the creation of tenants. Super useful. I know I want to use it for the benchmarks, so I can just clone the repository and start it with predefined values, and then it's available to do the benchmarks. So I will use that, definitely. Very cool. And it's a different module, which means it can be then customized, or copy-pasted, replaced with customizations. Awesome. Thank you, Rustem. Lots of feedback from Jean-Thierry also. Fixes RequestUrlHost tweaks. I don't like when it's done this way. It's the ones. So when you have arrays like this, put them as static in the class and reuse the same array instead of allocating it on every invocation. And that's okay. It's not a common something that's used a lot. Okay, so that's okay. But still, do it. Okay, BagPart, add dropdown with max height. Oh yeah, fixing we had an issue when the list of elements in the widget list would be too big or too high or too low in the screen, and will be hidden by a div. So now there is, I think, a scroll bar. I think there is a scroll bar because even Jasmine commented that about the color of the scroll bar. CSS updates, dependencies, okay. Admin UI, fix filterable list group borders. Filterable list group.
Yeah, these are the content type and content part lists. When you filter them with the search, they're filtered by JavaScript. So the top border was not displaying properly. So I'm using. Yeah.
I see. You remove more stuff to make it nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Prevent tests from failing on Sqlite file locked. It's kind of, yeah, so I don't like this because that usually shows that an issue, but it prevents from making tests flaky. So, okay, so if we can't delete the Sqlite file, just continue for the other tests. So it's not, yeah, rules, Boolean condition that is now documented. Okay. Fixed migrations from RC2 to latest dev. Dean did some tests to validate that we can migrate easily without any issue from an RC2 release to an 1.0 release. The idea being that if you are just on RC2 and you want them to migrate to 1.0 when it's shipped, then there won't be any exception or database conflicts, issues. So he has tested everything. And I think there is also a document. No, we talked about it. You made one, right? Explaining the if you have that, then you need to do that with the users. I saw that.
Yeah, there's some notes on I think our release 1 issue, which will include with the release, I assume, just with some basic instructions and what to do if this goes wrong or anything like that.
Good. Yeah, we saw that in the release steps. Yeah, with what's need to. Okay, I remember that. We can look at it later. Maybe.
Possibly worth making some fluid notes in there as well, actually.
No need specific. Add indexes to reduce index tables. With a YesSql update, there is no YesSql update here, so it's later probably. But yes, some indexes need to be updated because now YesSql contains new default indexes or stuff. So some of them might be removed from Orchard, changed, adapted. What should I created? Oh, it's just no. This one is just realizing, realize there are some bridge tables that could be indexed. Or maybe just that some field are missing in some index. Okay. Improve site settings, permission checks. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. Like if there is no user, or the user is allowed to that. Why? That's weird. I don't get it. Why was it checking null? It's like everywhere. Or is it just for the analytics also? Authentication?
Yeah, most of this is removing the null checks, which are also done in the extension method that's done there. And there was a couple of extra ones where we weren't actually checking any permissions in the driver. I'd have to.
Oh, I didn't see the not. Okay, so if the user is null or not authorized, I thought it was like if the user is null, then authorize. Don't check the authorization. No, not. Okay, good. So now it's cleaning the code because that does that. Okay. Custom user filter. Antoine, you're late. What happened?
I forgot the time.
You were responsible to remind me about the change. You can't forget about it. You are my backup. Okay. It was not about soccer game, right?
No.
Okay. Not next week. Or maybe next month. Okay. Custom user filters. Custom user filters from Dean. We got a demo last week to filter users in the UI. Thank you, Dean. GraphQL, add sample code. How to register. Custom parts for GraphQL. Okay. Code sample languages. Okay. More overview docs on features. Okay, more docs for result time. Good job. auto setup documentation. Good. So Antoine, are you doing a demo of the setup today?
No demo for me today.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. So documentation for auto setup. Launch profile web. What is that? I didn't even know you could do that from online. Ah. Did it change that? Is it by default? Do we have that by default in the CMS project? Or it's like
No, we don't. We have the default is
setup.
add our own setup features. Well, not our own, but add the setup feature.
That replaces the setup feature?
I don't know if it actually replaces it or if it is a second one, because there's a URL that you can set on the feature, so that you can have a special URL, which is the one that auto setup will run on. So I assume that and not having tried it yet, unfortunately, I assume that the existing setup feature continues to work if you do that.
Okay. Maybe we should invite Rustem to the demo.
That'd be great.
Well, we can invite him. We accept him. Not sure. So here, adding some parts. What's the difference? Oh, this is when there is no link. Oh yeah, so there is a link. There is no link. Okay. Missing parts. Add HeadMeta zone alternate for layer widgets wrapper. So I don't need to remember, didn't we talk? So talk me.
I made a widget wrapper. There was something that's posted on GitHub recently, which just reminded me that we've been saying for quite a while that we have the HeadMeta zone as kind of a default zone in the tenants, which you can use from layers to render scripts or kind of anything you need to. What does Antoine use it for? You like doing fav icons and the like. But when you do that, you need to not have the widget wrapper surrounding the content, because those divs and the like are illegal in the head section, technically. So this just provides an example of how to do it, so that it's specifically just for that zone. You don't get the wrapper.
Thank you.
And of course, you can, use the alternates there if you've got other zones you don't want the wrappers in either. Sometimes the wrapper's useful, sometimes it gets in the way of bootstrap classes and you don't want it.
Good. So Razor for this theme, Liquid for these ones. Reminder that this is how you do comments in Liquid with a Liquid tag. Kind of weird, but so it's done. Dynamic because I mean,
Dynamic because I can't take a reference on that theme to the layers project, which is where that model actually is.
The modality.
Yeah.
And would iShape work?
No, because it wouldn't have model.content. Would iZone holding work?
I see.
Maybe.
We
might want a interface for something that has model.content, model.footer, and model.header on it.
Well, we have there is an iZone. Oh, there is no. I see. There is iZone holding, which is a layout. So yes, model is iZone holding.
But iZone holding wouldn't, by default, have content as a property available on
it. It would have .zones content.
Oh, cool. That worked then.
That's what I do everywhere now. I'll show you later when I show the update to feed. yeah, there is no, every time now we remove dynamic and we talk to layouts, it's dot zones, square brackets, and the name of the zone.
Yeah, so maybe we think about going through the templates and updating them as well.
Yeah. Well, it's nice like this, right? But it's using a dynamic, so for perf it's not good, and there is no IntelliSense, and it might compile fine and break at runtime. So always the pros and cons between dynamic and strongly typed. Okay, I like to use dynamic when it's like a content type specific template where you need flexibility, and it's all dynamic parts, so you don't know, you can't reference all the projects with the parts and everything. So fix user query service name. Okay, class names. Yeah, copy paste, too much copy paste here. Upgrade to Fleet 2.0, like my first commit in 10 months. I show you all the breaking changes that, but we merged this branch such that we knew it would break some people. We will find bugs, but it's better to find them now at the earliest than too late. So we'll see all the changes. Add support for connections to OpenID tokens, and there is one coming later, not here, maybe in a few days. From Dean, the idea is that so today all the documents are stored in a table called documents. And YesSql supports the notion of collections, which is a way to store some specific types, classes, in different document tables, to isolate them, to partition the documents. So instead of having everything in the same document table, you can have different document tables. So when the content of this table can be isolated from the rest, you should do that. It's the case for OpenID because it's in its own word. Ideally, we could say that, so there are different levels of isolation. You could say that every class should have its own document table. If you were doing some ORM, you would say it's like table per class mapping. You could say also that every module, because if it's isolated from the rest of the other modules, it could have its own document table. So it will be like table per hierarchy or per domain. And then you can say, well, everything goes in the same document table. So in this case, the approach that was decided to be taken is to have everything in the same OpenID document table, which means everything in a collection named OpenID. Let's see if we can find one here. Okay, so this configuration tells YesSql that there is a collection named OpenID. I'm not even sure it's for YesSql. YesSql doesn't care.
Yeah, no, it needs to make the tables, so it does.
Yeah, to create tables. Okay, and then when we do a query, okay, we have to say, okay, query this class, but in the collection named OpenID. In this case, it's a constant. Okay. Yeah. Because it will request a table document which is prefixed by OpenID, and then all the indexes also are related to this document table. And so the tokens authorization will be there. We also do that when one of the classes have lots of items, so it can scale better than putting everything in the same table. Like if you have 1 million content items, it will be slow. So you don't want multiple things that can be 1 million items in the same tables. So that would be the case. Like if you have 1 million tokens, 1 million content items, they are all now in different, they should be in different collections. And that's what it is doing, OpenID. Test SDK 16.9.1, updating the runner. It's just to be able to run unit test with a new version. We don't know how better it is, but it should be better. We tried to remove it and it didn't work anymore, so we put it back. Fix vertical alignment of metadata and darken badges background color. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
Yes, we
because
can.
I got a phone call and it disconnected my headset. So so what am I saying? Okay, so fix vertical alignment of metadata and darken patches, pattern color.
It's just small UI changes here. For the content list, the badges were the background color was not really.
I see. Cool.
It made it feel like it was not aligned, so I just made it darker.
Yeah, it was not aligned.
And it was not aligned too, and now it is.
It was bothering me. It's not aligned. Maintain raw data on contents admin list page. Maintain raw data on content admin list page. Okay, so we are losing the raw data. Okay. So losing the context of the current filter when you change some filters. Fix liquid parsing for Lucene Queries params. Yeah, so when we upgrade it to the new Fluid template engine, then yeah, there is a new override to pass custom parameters to the context. So this is what Jasmine is doing here. Otherwise, all the parameters you will get from the Lucene query. You see, before it was accessing the template context, but it's not the way it's done now. By the way, where is this thing going? Template context. There should not be any template context here. So maybe this variable is not used anymore. And if it's still used, then there is another issue. Because it should be encapsulated by this code. And to alter the template context, there is an action here where you can pass custom parameters. BackgroundTask Atomicity. I assume it was not atomic, and then Chantieri fixed it. Log time. Oh, this is an old PR we commented on. Okay, I remember. We had a demo from Chantieri. Yeah, and I was complaining about the names which were not logical based on what it was doing. So now log timeout and log expiration. And also, I think the UI should be explicit about what it's doing. No properties advanced. Oh, here. Task on which where are the properties? I don't see the new properties. Interesting.
We made a tab for advanced properties. And so maybe they're low down.
But I don't see them here. I see red, green. Advanced tab. Advanced properties, okay, and then here, the task schedule as a cron expression. Oh, here, oh, I missed it, okay. Invalid log timeout value in the advanced tab. Oh, that's the message, okay, that's the message. And you see that's the issue with tabs, because you need to show that, oh, the issue you have is in another tab, isn't the one you are in right now. Okay, I see there. Log timeout, the timeout in milliseconds to acquire a lock before executing the task atomically. Leave it to 0 to not use any locking. I will need some explanation. Not sure I understand what it means. It's confusing, the word atomically. Then, ignore if there is no distributed lock feature enabled. Accepted. Thank you. Okay, so improvements on BackgroundTask Atomicity. We got a demo, so go watch the demo. There should be some doc at some point. Shell activation atomicity. Okay, probably some issues when the shell is created. So when the tenant is initialized. Not just that, also when any recipe is executed, you see. Okay. Workflow, atomic. Well, everything is atomic. Same thing, same solution action. Okay. Lots of atomicity. Fluid 2.0.0 beta. So updating. So yeah, so some bugs were found. Someone has an echo. Dave, you're muted. Jim, you're muted. I don't know who has an echo, but I could hear an echo. So please unmute yourself if you need to talk. No worries. So fixing some issues that probably Jasmine found. Did you find something, Jasmine? What was the bug? You found something.
Lately, it was with the Lucene Queries last
yeah.
week.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
if some var is different than string empty.
Big bug in Fluid. Oh my god. Yeah, I remember the and then all operators. Oh boy, yeah, so this one was important. Yeah, the end will not work. It's so funny that it's depressing. So Jasmine had something like, yeah, it has something like foo equals null.
Actually, it was different than null, and it was the opposite. I was doing
Matter.
Yeah.
Same issue.
Yeah. But I reverted that, so it was not working.
Doesn't matter.
And then yeah, should not matter. But...
Okay. Oh, something like that. Like, oh, if it's null and not star, then something. Okay, you had something. And the issue is liquid is that I found it crazy because it was like, oh, if I do actually on me end, okay, and I think you had something like this, and then you wrote in a comment, but if I do that, and that works, and I'm like,
yeah,
no, that doesn't make any sense. And first, there are two things here. Null doesn't exist in Liquid. There is no such thing as null in Liquid. So when you write null, it's like typing bread, okay? Like there is nothing like bread in Liquid if it's not a null variable, or like this. So typing null and that will be the same. It just happens that because it doesn't exist, the same way null doesn't exist, it just say, does foo exist? Okay, is it set to something? Because it's not nothing, which in Liquid is actually represented by nil, okay, because it's coming from Ruby. So null, what you meant was actually nil, which makes more sense. But in the end, this is the same test because it doesn't exist. So that was the first thing in your query, the first issue in your query. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm receiving again a call from my phone. I just want to be sure. I'm just ignoring it now. And so there is that. And then when you say changing the order, so I had to fix some issues with that. It's unrelated to the bug, but I found some bug. And then when you say that, I was so worried that the fact to put in front, and I found the issue. There are two things in Liquid. Well, first, the bug is that, well, there are two things. So in Liquid, when you say A or B or C and D or E, something like that, okay? Conditional operators, logical operators. In C#, it will do, I don't know, what will it do in C#?
It goes from left to right.
Something like that? Or is end, does end have a higher priority? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. They have the same priority. Normally, it's mathematical. It works.
I have no idea. So this, let's assume that in C# it will be this way. And if the end is false, then it doesn't evaluate the other one, okay? Yeah. So in Liquid, this is the opposite. In Liquid, there is no and or greater than the other. It's just doing that. It's doing the or in, and then it's using that. So it's right to left. Okay, first issue. First thing to know. And the issue I had is that when I was seeing and, well, I knew that liquid was weird, but actually I thought it was even weirder because when I read the doc, I thought it was like this: 1 equals 2 or b equals 3, something like that. Okay, let's say it's something like that. What I was reading was 3 equals b, the first one, and then I was doing 2 b equals 3, and then 1 equals 2 or b equals 3. Okay, that's what was happening, like the 2 or thing, and not 1 equals 2 or something, because this has a higher priority than the or and the and. But I was not reading it this way when I read the spec. I was reading like, no, this is how it should be read. So it was an issue with the grammar. So I fixed that in this version to support this way. Okay, now it's better. So that's what was happening was it was doing foo not null and something like that. That and foo not null. Okay, which returns a boolean, and this one then was compared to false, and then it was saying yes, it's true, it's not false. So that's why it was working if you put the first this one there or there. So that was the issue. So the issue. So that's the update there. I was so ashamed about this bug. Yeah, and I also found some issues with the nil and stuff, but doesn't matter. Okay, arrows for collapsible panels. What? Why? I'm kidding. We talked about it last week. So are these the arrows were in the incorrect position for the collapsible and expanded. Well, just for the collapsible ones. That's weird, but it was interesting. I'd like to know who changed that, why. And then I think Isham also handled, yes, correctly, the right to left languaging. So that's good. Update README, okay. That's part of the changes in the free 2, we can mention that. Code mirror CDN integrity, fixing some hashes, okay. It's funny, every week we fix a hash. Fix menu arrows. So CDN, yeah, I assume it will just not load the thing otherwise. So that's what we talked about. Darkmode should work with multi-tenants in the same browser instance. Okay. Classman, good?
Yeah, it's fine.
Thank you.
It just separates the cookie for each tenant.
Okay. Fixing widget-list rendering, so migration from the free2 branch that we are removing dynamic, but by removing dynamic, some code that only worked with dynamic is broken. So now there is a refactoring that whatever is the layout is an I zone holding instead of a generic I shape, just saying it's an I shape, but that has zones. And it was implicit in the dynamic, like we were accessing the zones property for dynamic. Now, I will tell you there is a zone property, so we can strongly type check it. And the API has changed also. Instead of taking an I shape, you can say it's a zone. It's a layout, so it's a zone holding. Could be called I layout actually. I don't know why I call it I zone holding because the class is called that. Maybe that would be better to call it I layout. Fixing YesSql, remove duplicate index because of the change in YesSql I talked about and the new indexes that now can be removed from the create method because it's part of YesSql by default. Move collection initialization to core. Okay. Only one TFM by default under Visual Studio. So we might just change a week ago to target both netcore 3.1 and net 5.0 by default. And it was for myself at least completely unusable in Visual Studio or in VS Code. Too slow. I could not do anything. I had to wait 10 minutes to do a change and run it and to see if the change was doing anything. And I have a recent laptop. I'm like, no way. And actually, so we decided to just target by default one. We still target 2 of them, but the 2 of them, the net3 one is only built on the CI. And if you take the solution by default, it will only build locally on net5.0. On the CI, will still build on the 2 of them. But if you want to target the other one, you can just change the default one to net3.1. And if you want to target both, you can just also change your solution to say target both. But I don't think you will want to do that. There is no reason to target both. And now it's much faster like it was before, and we can work again. So if you take the current solution, it will build on 5.0 by default. And on the CI, we'll still build on the 2 TFMs and ship the NuGet packages on the 2 TFMs. And ensure that your PRs build also on 3.1. Updated MailKit, MimeKit to 11.
So I think that change from JT was only for Visual Studio.
Yes.
So we still need to do a change for VS Code.
VS Code. Oh, VS Code, we need to do the same. Because that thing is building inside Visual Studio. I didn't try on VS Code, yeah. Good idea. I didn't try that. Since I had that, I used Visual Studio again. And the command line was using it correctly. It was targeting 5.0. Maybe because of that, I don't know. Okay, VS Code. Someone needs to do that with VS Code, if it's doable. I don't know how it's done. OpenIddict update. Use AddAsync in content item tag helper. Yeah, this add was from the dynamic call. Doesn't exist anymore. So it's AddAsync. Sql, well, it's still there, but add is still part of the dynamic call, but it's better to call AddAsync on the strongly typed shape. Sql indexing documentation. Okay. Fixing a bug which was with cycle tag, very isolated issue. Modifying the Lucene API to accept post. So this has just been merged this morning. So now you can invoke Lucene queries with post and gets differently. And there are 2 methods. I didn't realize that we have a method called content and a method called, well, a route called content to get the content items, to get the content of the query, and documents to get the content items. No, content items and the full JSON document.
Yeah, you have both get and post methods for retrieving documents or content items, which is not really what Elasticsearch does. So I had an issue so that we had proper methods for each verbs from the REST endpoint, because we could add elements in the custom Lucene index from this API. And what we use there is custom for Orchard because we retrieve content or documents all the time. But normally Elasticsearch is not working like that.
And one after meeting started, add the Lucene test. Interesting. Someone is adding it. That's good. Like it. Okay. Questions, comments? No chat? Okay. Yeah, usually Soteris uses the chat. Dave, who actually provided the PR for For what? For the multi-targeting today. Talking about 1.0. 1.0 first. What's to say? We did some triage. Thursday, new issues for 1.0. Not that many issues. Milestone 1.0. Dean did that, should be ready. And we need someone to validate that. I'm not worried, we can postpone that, but someone should try to check if we still have an issue, if it's a big issue or not. I'm not worried about it. And then this is the status check for moving to 1.0. Once all the issues are ready, are fixed, we think it's good quality, we can start reading 1.0. Getting close. And we also, and also something we said, before we merged 1.0, we'll change the branch from master to main. Before 1.0, so it doesn't impact us much. At least when we ship 1.0, it will be on the correct branch. So that, what else? These are the release notes for the migration, like what to do. You need, if you were before RC2, you need first to upgrade to RC2, then to 1.0. And from RC2 to 1.0, you need to be authenticated, something like that. And if you are not, you will have an issue, which Dean explains and says, then do that and do it again, like we said. Okay, that's good. Also, what to do for migrations into the user changes. Breaking changes of Fluid. So this branch, this PR that we merged with the new version of Fluid. Someone asked the question on the chat. So I think it was Josh Tango, he said, so are we moving from Liquid to Fluid? No, Fluid is the name of the library that evaluates the Liquid language. Liquid template engine. So this is the new version, and changes, breaking changes for your templates. So this is fixed. It was already working in 1.0, now 2.0 it's still working again because it's fixed. A breaking change that I saw people hit is if you do something like assign foo equals 1 plus 2. Okay, super simple. This is not valid in Liquid. In Liquid, there is no such operators as plus, minus, times, modulo, dividing, all the things. It doesn't exist. So the issue is that in the first version of Fluid, it was supported. I removed it to be close to the specification, so now it's not supported anymore. So what you need to do actually is to change your operators to something like that. So what it will say, oh, invalid assign tag. If you have operators, remove them, and this is how it's done. I think the goal of doing that from the Liquid templating language is to be able to distinguish how to behave in terms of numeric operators and string operators. So if you do that, I think it should, I don't need to copy paste, it should result in the string 1, 2. But if you do that, it will result in 3. Okay. The same way, if you want to convert a number to a string or a string to a number, this is what you do. Like if you have a string like this and you want to add 2, you do that. It will convert that. Or if you want to convert it to 1, the number, you do that. That's how it's done. And I assume it's the same way for 1 to convert it to a string, you just append something like that. Okay, that's the idea. And I remove, and now everything I wrote here is wrong, but it doesn't matter. And the next breaking change was something else. I found issues like people who are doing limit. One, it was working and someone said limit like limit. In a Lucene query, we had 4 user in users limit and an argument like something like this, okay, in in a query. And so this was not valid in Liquid 2 because there was a bug. I was just trying to read numbers. And actually, we should be able to read also member access. There's a bug. So that's all about it for Fluid. In terms of breaking changes that I can think of. Everything else should be the same, but there are other breaking changes. I didn't mention that in documentation. Resource manifest is the biggest one. So resource manifest, a resource used to be declared in a high resource manifest provider. So it was resolved all the time on every page rendering. And it will redefine that. That's what we saw in the traces. So now it's not using high resource manifest provider anymore. There is no such interface. You need to create an iConfigure option of a resource management options. And it's just like an option. Okay, the resource management options is just a class, an option class that can be resolved everywhere, that can be configured in the startup or with an iConfigure options, like all the options in ASP.NET. This is the standard ASP.NET pattern for options. And in this case, what we do is that a static constructor of this class is instantiating one manifest instance. And then when the option is configured for every tenant, it's adding this instance, which is immutable, to the list of resource manifests that is in the option. So your own configuration could even remove existing manifests from the resource manifest list or replace it by something else or add new ones. So the two things here is that we use the options pattern from ASP.NET, which is standard, more standard. It's also better in terms of performance because it's a singleton for all the tenants. And here we are initializing this instance in a static property. So it's done once for all the tenants. Even if you have 1,000 tenants, there will be one instance of the manifest because this is an immutable value. What's different in each tenant is it registered or not? But this is the single list of objects we should have. Okay, so that's the new pattern for resource manifest. That's a big breaking change. If you add resources, that won't work. So that's something to change. Then something else for everything that is liquid now is registered completely differently. So the same way, well, actually the opposite way. In 3.1, everything mostly was static. And this is bad for Orchard because it's multi-tenant. So we need to have different filters, different so liquid filters and liquid accessors. And this was not the case before. So here you would just globally say content item is accessible, but that's bad because maybe one tenant can give access to content item and not the other. So now it's done dynamically. I don't know where in this case. Here, sorry. So now same thing. There is a template options, which is a Fluid object. And for this instance, on your tenant, you say, I authorize content item properties to be accessed. Okay. Or I add the display text filter. So now each tenant, based on each module, because it's defined in a feature, can set all the filters and the properties and the accessors, everything. So same thing, standard ASP.NET pattern and multi-tenant. So that's better. And this is on for all the modules that we're configuring liquid. Oh, this one is interesting because is it the case? No, this one is just parsing, but also to register custom tags in liquid. Where do we have that? Display management. Display management module is not in modules. Orchard called display management tag. So this is a tag implementation. We used to have to inherit from custom classes. We don't anymore. Otherwise, the same code, but let's see how it's registered. That's what is interesting here. So display management startup. Where is the startup? Display liquid, maybe an extensions class. Like that. Here, probably. No. Can't find it. Well, it's on the options also. It's not on, yeah, on the template options, there is an access to the, or the liquid template options, there is an accessor to the fluid parser where you can register custom tags. And then what we do is that we just say the add class tag will invoke this method. And that's how it works. Yeah, you can hear all the Europeans joining now because, sorry, it was 1 hour before. So that's a change here also, how to register fluid tags, custom ones. And every module can provide their custom tag, custom filter. More strongly typed properties on the shapes to remove the usage of dynamic for performance. Here in this case, before you would do like a dynamic shape dot foo. Now you can use an iShape and say get property foo. The dynamic type still works, but we have the strongly typed one also now available for perf. And that's some changes that are reflected in all the shape classes. And when we don't need dynamic anymore, you see, because we can remove the dynamic, then we do that. Zones, what is that? Yeah, all the stuff that is removed now, liquid filter, yeah, nothing changed here. I think that's it. That's it for the breaking changes because of this PR. But the advantage is that it's faster. That plus the 5.0, it should feel super fast. I think we did, it was on debug, but let's try to run it just to, I'm recording, so it won't be the same demo effect, but last week we created a tenant during the triage meeting, the same people going to the triage meeting, and we created a tenant, and I clicked setup. I think it was that. I clicked setup, and in like 200 milliseconds, we had the site. It was the speed of generating the new tenant was amazing. And it's not even something that we improved. I think it's just the 5.0 update that made that. So I just want to see if we can reproduce that. Hopefully it will be quick to build. Now we're just building for 5.0. Let's see. But I assume that HeadMeta said also it felt also super fast when rendering pages compared to the previous version. And again, because we merged the 5.0 branch plus the Fluid 2 at the same time, so we don't know exactly what is helping more. Sqlite driver is getting some perf also improvement for the concurrent request for OpenIddict connection. So that should be something that will help a lot also for when there is a lot of requests on the site. I will measure that. Just waiting for it to build. Someone is doing some noise. Okay, done. Come on. I don't even know what this noise is. What is it doing? Okay, copying translation files. Okay, last step. But because I'm recording on Teams, I'm sure it's taking some perf. So my default tenant is coming soon site. It's slow. It won't be the same effect because it's super slow here. Crap. Yeah, that's slow. That's bad. Not sure I should show it now. Oh, it's a line. A tenant. No. Okay. Log 2. Test. Will it finish setup? Doesn't work. It was fast. Finish setup. 1, 2. Nah, it wasn't the same effect. It was much faster last time. Well, you try locally and you see how it feels. It's taking too long. Even loading the image took too long. You see, you can see that there is something. Maybe it's still taking all my stuff. Okay, that's it. That was a demo. A demo actually. That's it. Questions, comments? Next week, Antoine. Europe is moving back to the same 9-hour,
In 2 weeks.
8-hour, 2 weeks, not next week? Okay, good. Okay, so next week, same time, which is 1 hour before the usual time for the Europeans. And for us, it doesn't change. It's 12 PST. Thanks, everyone. See you on Thursday for the triage or next week for the meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.